Another one?
Yeah, do another one.
No, I'm loose.
Yeah, no.
Hey, I'm Will from... No, I'm not. Have I, Will? Which Will have I? Yeah, it's going to be the outtakes. Will forgets his own name. We need one of those snappy boards. Hey, I'm Will from Somerset Advanced Motorcyclists. We're at Quick Shifter in Wells, and we're joined by Doc Bike, who are doing first aid training for members of the public. And we're using the Doc Bike, which is their operational vehicle, to go over our daily rider checks, because just like normal motorcyclists, operational vehicles have to have their daily checks summarised as POWDERSS. So we're going to go over what POWDERSS means on any motorcycle, but also what it means for an operational vehicle like a Doc Bike. So our daily rider checks, also known as our POWDERSS checks, we'll start with P for power, sometimes also used to be called petrol, especially on bikes, but as they are becoming electric or electrified, power is the new word, but petrol. So do we have sufficient fuel for our intended purpose? If not, that's one of the first things we'll want to top up. O in POWDERSS is for oil. Depending on the vehicle, some vehicles might be air-cooled, might just have oil for the engine. So depending on your vehicle, how do you check your oil? Is it a dipstick on one of the sides? Is it a sight glass? On the RT, we've got a sight glass on the other side, making sure it's within the minimum and maximum. If it's a bike that's got a dipstick, also being familiar with your vehicle and its owner's manual as to how to check it. Some of them you have to check warm, some of them you have to check cold, some of them on the side stand, some of them on a center stand or upright. So knowing your vehicle and how to check the oil is important. W for water. So this is a water-cooled bike. Some bikes may not have water or fluids in general. But for this bike, we've got a sight on the other side where we can look through a gap and then we'll have a tank with a marker. So are you within your minimum and maximums? Also, again, just like with the oil, how do you measure the level if it's showing one? Is it when it's upright on a center stand? Is it when cold? Is it when on a side stand, etc.? So knowing how to measure your oil and your water is important. Some bikes don't even have a fuel gauge. So to check your fuel, you may be looking inside the tank. On most modern bikes, though, you'll have a fuel level or a fuel warning light, to jump back to how we're looking at our levels. So there's two Ds to POWDERSS. The first D is for damage. So we're checking the vehicle over. Is everything secure? Nothing loose? Anything damaged? You park your vehicle on the road or in a public car park, etc. Has someone caused any damage for it, or is something just worn out on it from a damage perspective? Is everything where it should be? Nothing's loose. The second D is for drive. We're very lucky on the BMW RT that it has a final drive, so there's no chain to worry about. But we're also looking into the final drive, if there are any leaks coming from it, if it's a chain, what condition the chain is, as well as the tautness of the chain. Is it within spec? Again, defer to your owner's manual as to what the tolerances are for your type of drive, whether it's chain or whether it's a final drive like on this RT. E for electrics, we'll turn the ignition on, we'll make sure that all of our electrics do their startup sequence, that there are no faults that aren't supposed to be there. Some items like ABS don't clear until it's done a few meters rolling, but is there anything, any warning lights to take attention of? Other elements of electrics are checking out the lights, so our headlights, our horn, our rear lights, our indicators. In this vehicle, being an operational vehicle, we've also got the emergency lights equipped to it as well. So are those lights working? So we'll turn everything on. As I mentioned with the horn, good toot of the horn, and just have the hazards on as well as individuals. Are all the electronics working, and are we fault free? Going on to R for rubber. The obvious one being the tyres. So are our tyres in good condition? We go around to this tyre, we're looking for nice even wear across them. They've got plenty of tread depth, no cuts, bulges, damage to the tyre, that everything looks as it should do. And also on operational vehicles, we do check the tyre pressures manually, and we don't tend to rely on any TPMS systems, although they are standard and fitted to most bikes. So especially on heavy bikes like the RT, we're not only checking for the condition of the tyre and the tread, but also how the tyre looks in terms of its dimensions. So has it been squished down and worn out more in the middle? Is there uneven wear? Is it a nice round shape and not flattened out, because that starts to affect the handling normally before the tyre's worn out. So especially on heavy bikes, sports bikes you'll often find, even on the lighter bikes, they'll wear down in the middle because they'll have a softer compound in the middle. So from the side it may look like you've got plenty of tread, but what does the middle look like? And have you got that nice tyre shape still there, or is the tyre starting to flatten out and losing its performance? Key thing with tyres, obviously air, so setting those pressures to the manufacturer's spec for the tyre, making sure that they're there. There's lots of advice from people saying to drop PSI here, drop PSI there, but manufacturers and IAM have just standardised on whatever the manual says, and for a bike of this weighting, it's normally 36 front, 42 rear, and you'll find that being common right across most of the larger motorcycles. But look at your manual and be careful if you do need to deviate from it. Do it for a very specific reason because you know what you're doing, but otherwise stay to standards. So we've covered R, now moving on to S. S is again a double S. So we've got both steering and suspension, and that is, this one's not locked hopefully. Can I steer lock to lock without any movements? Not on a centre stand, obviously when it's down and I'm sat on the bike. Can I steer left to right with no notchiness? Is it free to move, especially as you start adding things like sat navs and other devices, just making sure that everything is out the way and that my steering works lock to lock nice and smoothly. Especially faults on larger bikes, you'll often feel a notch around the centre as those head bearings start to wear. So be sensitive about any feeling around the middle on the steering side. Suspension wise, we normally are looking at the suspension. Start with the front. It's a little bit trickier on the RT as these are the other way around. So we're looking up at where the suspension, where the inner and outer poles meet. Is there any leaking? Is there any mess on the bottom of the fork as well? Often if any fluids are leaking out of the suspension, they'll sort of congregate down on the bottom of the forks. It's also a good idea when you're down here to visually inspect the brakes. It's not part of Powders, we handle brakes as part of a separate check, but while you're down here and you can move the wheel out the way and inspect the brakes for any fluid leaking, etc. That's what we do. Again, with the suspension, is it clean? Does everything look as it should be? Any damage, any leaks? And try to do the same for the rear as well. Some bikes it's harder, especially this bike, you sometimes have to actually remove panels and panniers to actually get a look at that rear shock. So I said there were two S's, the first one being steering and suspension. We've gone through that. The next S is self. So we have an AM safe checklist, and that is illness, medication, stress, alcohol, fatigue, and eating. So have you been ill? Are you just wanting to get out, but really you're not up to it because you haven't slept very well or don't feel very well? Are you on any medication that may affect your riding? And this can be as simple as hay fever medication, or an asthma inhaler can affect how you're able to think and concentrate. Also stress. So the idea of I'll get out and clear my mind on the bike might not necessarily be a smart idea. You might actually want to stay off the bike if you're under stress or emotion. So really think about what you're trying to get out of the ride, because it's not always an excuse to distract yourself, because you'll be thinking about whatever's going on whilst you're trying to concentrate on riding your machine. Have you had any alcohol? This isn't just on the evening or a lunchtime pub stop. Is it the morning after? So you've been out the previous night and your alcohol levels are still very high. I believe it's still true to say that most drink driving convictions are actually the following day, where people have an accident that may not be your fault. And standard process now is to breathalyze people at the roadside, and lo and behold, you're still over from the previous night. Fatigue, really important, especially if you're doing shift work or if you're a long distance driver, taxi driver, and you want to get out on a nice Saturday morning on the bike, but have you had enough rest? Now you might not have a tacho on your bike telling you that you have or haven't had enough rest. So you've got to really look, listen to how you feel. And if you've done a late shift, or you've not got a good night's sleep, it may be best to avoid a ride until you feel up to it from a fatigue perspective. Eating, nourishment. Have you had enough to eat and drink? Especially important when we're at the extremes of the season. So in the very cold, have you had a warm drink to warm you up? Or in the summer, have you had enough liquid to replenish as you've been out in the baking summer heat? So really listen to how you're feeling. Watch out for headaches, that may indicate a bit of dehydration or elements taking hold, which will all affect your concentration. Okay, so in summary, our pre-rider checks called powders. We're going to look at power or petrol, oil, water, damage and drive, electrics, rubber, steering and suspension, and self. Thanks for watching. So in addition to our pre-rider checks, powders that we've been through, there's also a dedicated check for brakes. So there's two types of brake checks that we do routinely. One's the static and one's the rolling or the dynamic. So just to explain both of those. So on most motorcycles, we're going to have two sets of brakes, one that control the front wheels, one that controls the rear wheels. And some bikes have got linked systems, etc. And on scooters and mopeds, they may have front and rear on the handlebars. But the same checks apply. So with our static brake tests, brake checks that we'll want to be doing on the bike before we move the bike, when I squeeze the brake handle, I'm going to give it 2 or 3 good squeezes. And the important thing is that I've got brake pressure. So if I give it a really good squeeze, that one, it's holding pressure, that it's not interfering with the handlebar. So if your lever hits your handlebar, you have maximized your braking potential. It's important to pump it a few times just to make sure that you're not tricking yourself with any remaining fluid, but that I've got good brake pressure and that I can hold the brake pressure there. It's also a good time when you're checking the E for electrics in powders. I'll often, while I've got the ignition turned on, test each of my brakes for their static braking, because I can check that the brake lights illuminate. So that's what we do for a static brake. We'll do the same with the foot brake. So you can either use your hand or your foot, and that's to pump it a few times and to hold pressure on the brake to make sure that it's able to hold the brakes. Once I've done that, I also go round and quickly check the calipers, make sure that I haven't got a leak that I've just been able to exacerbate by doing that. That saved me personally recently as well. You'll read about that on the SAM members Facebook group. But we're ensuring that we've got pressure and there's nothing that's going to impede our control, so we can put maximum pressure on the system. We're also going to be checking our fluid levels. So on this bike, we're lucky enough that we have a sight. So I'm checking that I've got the fluid. You can see it's right at the max. It's a little bit trickier, but you can see it bubbling at the top. Typically with brake systems, we want the fluid levels right at the max. That's because as the bike leans, the fluid level obviously goes down with the horizon. So we'll want it at the max. And there'll also be a reservoir behind that pannier that we can check as well. So that we've got fluid, that we've got pressure, that our controls properly work, and that we can hold pressure for a period of time, and then check our braking system for any leaks. That is the static brake test we do. There is also the rolling or the dynamic brake test, and that is where possible, where safe, at the very beginning of your journey, that you're going to start to use the brakes to make sure that the brakes are performing as you expect, and that you're also getting the braking performance you expect. Typically done under 30 miles an hour, somewhere between 15 and 20 miles an hour would be ideal, that you're able to utilize the front brake, the back brake, and a combination of them to make sure that your brakes are working as expected. You don't want to realize you have a braking problem when you come to that first set of traffic lights where you're likely to rear end a car or another vehicle. So you want to be able to check that off as soon as you get rolling to make sure that your brakes are working as they should.